All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time it is in the cosmos, whenever this is finding you there. Welcome to Kai Chi Alchemy. You can call me Katchi. This is a space of love, y'all. Welcome or welcome back. I want to thank y'all for showing up. Thanks for co-creating community with us. Thank you for all the engagement, the likes, shares, subscribes, comments, things, all the things you do. I sure do appreciate it. So today, the process of getting here, clearly, has been a journey. And I was not thinking I was going to make it, but here we are. Here we are. I just, I follow the guidance. That's the work, that's the practice, that's why we're here. It's intense though. Today, I shouldn't even be here right now. I have had transportation issues, scheduling issues, communication issues, physical health issues. I will not go on. Just a confluence of, you know what they say about Mercury retrograde shadow period being the most intense and ridiculous time. Okay, maybe I see what they're talking about. So, here we are. And I was getting this message for this particular collective today about masks, pimple patches, light language, speaking in tongues, dance. Okay, so what am I talking about here? How does this all tie together? How does it all wrap together? You ever have too many downloads, so much processing, the tension and the buzziness, the static of that creates the pain in your brain. And that also even ties back in to this message, to this imagery, in a sense. Because it was about how when people speak in tongues, for example, or, dance wildly, intuitively, the way that we used to get real harsh on people, like, you're the devil there, back in the day, about people. That kind of expression, non-linear, non-logical, intuitive expression, is like a loss of control. You're losing control over your body, right? And that's why we think it's bad. Because if you can't control it, if something bad happens, then you can't stop it. It is what it is. It's unfolding. So if we don't trust our bodies, if we don't trust that mother energy for whatever reason, then we cannot give over control, because we're afraid of our body. We want to manage it. We want to micromanage it. And they'll say things about people speaking in tongues like they're possessed by a demon. That's magic. That's devil worship. when you allow, you end up spending so much less energy on the controlling, and that energy is freed up, that potential, that strength, that focus is freed up for you to co-create with her, right? So you can share control, and you can surrender control, and you can develop a relationship. Some people get real rigid. They don't dance, they don't speak their mind. They don't do any of those things, and it gets real repressed. Some people have no control over their bodies, and they take no responsibility for their actions and their words. And they identify with the emotion, so much so that they will make excuses for those big words, those actions. So we want the relationship, we want the balance, we want to have the mother and the father energies working together. We want to trust our bodies, we want to trust our minds. We want to share control, we want to surrender control, we want to co-create, ideally. This is Kai Chi Alchemy, we're here about balance, right? Okay. So what does this have to do with pimple patches and masks and stuff? And being possessed by demons? When you allow yourself to intuitively dance, move, scream, cry, shake, all these things that are kind of frowned upon in our society, perhaps less and less so, that's encouraging. We're gonna have to take our time with my brain pain today, but I felt guided to be here right now. So the dancing, the singing, the speaking in tongues, the giving yourself over to your body and allowing it to express as it does, that, they say, that's demonic, that's evil, that's, you're possessed by spirits. It's dangerous. And I feel that it's not the opposite, but it's that you are being possessed by spirits and demons already. They live in your body. If you repress them, or if you hyperfixate on them and get stuck in a loop and cannot move that energy properly, then you remain possessed by demons. You remain controlled by spirits. So it may look on the surface like one thing, but actually, it is when we allow ourselves to move our bodies and our mouths and our vocal cords without thinking about it. Those are the times, that is the process. A natural, beautiful, beautifully designed process for us to be able to detox and release the spirits and the demons that we come into contact with in our lives, that we take into ourselves, that we begin to identify with, that we're, So it is that expression, that crying, that screaming, that shaking, that dancing, that vocalizing, that is the purification of the non-Christ energies within you. So it's like all these people in the church pointing at you, saying, this is evil, this is wrong, are expressing their own demonic possession in that process. And the community that they're a part of is encouraging that. And I dare say that people in the religious repression and people in like the moral outrage, virtue signaling, like progressive energy These are more preoccupied, anxious, and dismissive, avoidant relationships with our body, and they're both dangerous. And I think that's why we have such toxicity and degeneration and evil coming from these energies, these groups, these identities, these egregores. So, how do we heal that? How do we work on that? We can only take responsibility for ourselves. We cannot encourage a new egregore, a new group identity. And this is what Christ consciousness is all about, right? It is about taking personal responsibility and understanding that we have full and complete power and control over ourselves and our own lives, but absolutely none over other people. And that is as it's meant to be. And that's the beauty of free will. And that's the beauty of co-creation. So if we want to rise in our capacity, in our alignment, to have those relationships with healthy, healed, whole, regenerative, sustainable souls on this earth in physical form right now, I think we need that. We've got a lot of work to do. And if we're working on ourselves, we have to be able to trust that the people we're working with are also working on themselves, right? So it is encouraging that expression. It is the ecstatic dance. It is the Pentecostal service. It is the psychedelic trip. It is the lovemaking. It is the moving intuitively on your yoga mat. It is the, what is this called? When you tire out your hip flexors in a certain way to try to induce that shaking response to help you to release the trauma from the unexpected impacts of your past. Surrendering control over to our body to allow it to go through that process and to detox and to release and to bring us back to ourselves. And I practice what I preach, and I was brought here by an experience like that. I'm grateful that I have the awareness to support and encourage myself in that direction. Sometimes people just try to control so hard for so long, and at some point they snap. People call it a mental breakdown or something. But it is the energy in their body, desperate crying out to be expressed. If you hold this inside, it will tear you apart. It will give you dis-ease. It will ruin your life. It will harm your mind. This is the most important work. This is the work that we do to heal our minds, and we do that through our bodies. Okay, so the masking, obviously, is the repression of this energy, the holding it back. The pimple patches. You know, like how people these days have the little stars and they're decorative and stuff? Imagine somebody that's pointing out your pimple and saying something about you being bad or imperfect or diseased. And all the while, they have 5 dozen pimples, but they cover them up with little stars. And it's so absurd, it's so obvious that they have 5 million pimples. But it's as if they're out of sight, out of mind. Nobody else can see what's going on my face. But it's not. They act like they have concealer, but they actually have star pimple patches. And they're pointing at somebody's one pimple, bringing in all the flying monkeys. But all the while, they are the most imperfect and diseased. And they think they think that this is going to work, but everybody sees it. It's a kind of a mask, right? you're hiding your dis-ease. But if you allow a pimple to do what it does, that's a detoxification healing process. That's your body being like, this is all clogged up. There's something wrong going on here. There's an imbalance in the bacteria. Like, let's send stuff in there to fix it up, get it back where it needs to go. So if you acknowledge the dis-ease, you're going to be able to heal it. If you repress it, if you hide it, it's going to become wars. It's going to become violence. It's going to become, on a social, emotional, energetic, physical, governmental, community, family-wise way. It's going to destroy us. And not in a good way. So when I came out here with this visual and this understanding and this message about allowing the demons and the spirits and the energies that possess you to be released through the process of expression, physical, vocal, the shaking, the pre-verbal expression. Before we created language, we verbalized, we sang, we grunted, that is light language. That was the beginning. Maybe that's what the Tower of Babel's about, Like once we started writing letters down and codifying languages, that was the fall. That was the disintegration. So if we can bring ourselves back to that wisdom a little bit and take advantage of it, I think it's going to be very useful for everybody who's resonating with this message today. Hello. So, I'm not going to look at the chat until the end because I'm trying to stay in this zone and this flow and this message right now. And I got the brain pain. So I know my limits. But I thought it was funny as I came out here to share this message that I came to pull some cards. We got 8 belief, examine existing beliefs. Examine your repression or your hyperfixation on your emotions, on your expression. 22 change. Fear is not a good advisor. And I'm getting a very strong energy off of this about the video that I just posted about the pretend pirate. So you might want to check that out. It might be relevant to some of y'all. And it's interesting in that story that it was about a past life that created fear, that altered somebody's decision-making process. So you're being guided to examine your existing beliefs about whether fear is a good advisor or not. You're being encouraged to walk towards your fears. Test. Looking for a divine test. And that is the test when you have an emotion, when you have an impact, when you have an experience, when you have an expression, when you have a energy that flows through you. You can choose to hyperfixate on it, overthink it, try to control it, try to control the expression of it, try to exaggerate the expression of it, try to identify with the expression of it, or you can repress it. Or you can find the middle way, and that's how you pass the test. Be open to new experiences. This is the anchor card. Tie them together. This is like a guy in like a submarine suit, right? He's like going underwater. Space suit. Similar. Pisces energy. Cosmic waters. Deep ocean. All of it. Somewhere sort of unknown, full of a lot of stuff that is unknown, right? You're gonna explore it, but it's also water, so it's emotions. It's the body. It's intuition. So we're talking about releasing the spirits and the demons from our bodies through expression. And as I pull these cards for this message that was supposed to be quite quick and abbreviated, given all the challenges I'm going through right now, as you can see, just rolled out of bed. This is all so aligned. You're gonna laugh with me, I think. And I just decided to split the deck for the sacred sites and see if something came out for us. This is Ziggurat of Ur. And Ziggurat of Ur, Iraq, the great mother Inanna Perset. I'm hearing Reem from The Rare Gazelle. If you listen to her, or you haven't in a while, or you're looking for someone, maybe that would be helpful or, relevant for you. Is that a unicorn? What? Do you see these horses in here? It gets a little blurry when I get that card so up close to the camera, but just trust me, there's unicorns on there. Okay, so this is coming from the south. Ziggurat of Ur, near Nasiriyah, Iraq, which is where Reem's family is kind of from historically. And she's a very ancestrally based practitioner. And what is our lineage and ancestry about, other than energy focus? I'm gonna have to blurt this out for you guys because I said the K word a couple times the other day and got seriously shadow banned. Sorry, not sorry. Letting it flow, right? Energy focus, smexuality. In the Abstinian universe, when people talk about all this paranoia about ritual magic and all the darkness and all the Saturn worship, and they talk about the dancing, about letting the energies move you, drive you. They utilize that. And it's wisdom. It's half truth. That's why it's being exposed and disintegrated right now. It couldn't last, but it was powerful. It was truth on a level, in a way. But I would say that's almost kind of like what I was saying about the progressive world. It's like a hyper identification and fixation upon that emotional expression and taking zero responsibility for your words and actions as you express those demons and those spirits. You don't identify with the demons and the spirits, but you take responsibility for the impact that has on other people. And that's why we try to manage and control our expression, right? And some people in the conservative religious side of it repress. And they take too much responsibility and they take too much control. And in the other side of it, people have no ability to cap things, save it for later when it's a more safe, appropriate environment, right? And they just, in the streets, screaming at people for genuine reasons. But those people didn't hurt them. And they're hurting those people because of the way they're choosing to channel this energy, this smexual energy, this crying, screaming, shaking, this light language, this vocalization, this dance, this physical, vocal expression, this intuitive expression, this releasing of the energies, the spirits, the demons that we have inside of us. Through the process of our lives, we pick things up. And we can repress it, we can mask it if we want. But it will come out in the wars, in the political instability, in the tearing apart of families, in the things that we see all around us. And the most effective way, in my opinion, of preventing and resolving these issues is through this energy of smexuality. So here we have Ziggurat of Ur. If you're just getting on now, I highly recommend watching this video from the beginning on the live replay later on, because there's so much to this. I have not had a download so deep and powerful and pungent and like real and expressive, like it's flowing. It's the flow. It's the flow energy. And how did I get here? Car troubles, health troubles, communication troubles, drama, problems, a confluence of Mercury retrograde, shadow period nonsense. Thank goodness I don't have work today. Oh my gosh. I don't know what I would have done. Probably would have had one of those mental breakdowns I was just mentioning, where people just crack and start to express the things they've been repressing or controlling or, for so long. So, here in the lower world, let's see what they have to say about Ziggurat of Ur and for this collective in relation to your past. I say, face the 8th gate of the inner city of ancient Babylon. I think we're going to do a whole reading on Babylon soon. It's important. We were just talking about Abyssinian stuff, right? They have part of the truth. It's not all the truth. They're stuck. They're missing a piece. It's causing problems, right? Lower world past. Face the 8th gate to the inner city of ancient Babylon. This sacred entry was built around 575 BCE by order of King Nebuchadnezzar II to honor the goddess Ishtar, divine personification of the planet Venus. The lion represents the qualities of this goddess: courage, confidence, and empowerment. Her symbol, the 8-pointed star of Venus, is reflected in the 5-pointed star of Islam, which appears alongside a crescent moon. When Ishtar descended to the underworld, she had to remove her clothing until she was naked, and all sexual activity on earth had ceased, revived, and returned to the world. Ishtar became the goddess of pure divine ecstasy, of pleasure. How have you perceived smegs in the past? Have you ever shied away from it or struggled to express your sexuality? Remember your natural sensuality. You are the very embodiment of divine love. Put aside your old beliefs about disgust and sin, and finally embrace your sexual self. Offer your lovemaking to the divine. Put aside your old beliefs about disgust and sin. Fear is not a good advisor. This is the test. Offer your lovemaking to the divine. And this doesn't have to be what you consider lovemaking, generally speaking. This can be dancing, singing, vocalizing. This can be self-smegs. This can be, depending on the environment and the situation and the circumstances, possibly group smegs. It'd be tough. It would have to be just right for that to work, but it could probably. Artistic expression. You could even like paint, use instruments, crying, slobbering, making your own language. Stream of consciousness, speech even in your native language. If it really is stream of consciousness. Express your sexuality, express the rainbow serpent. Let your body and your mind work with the spirits to get the energies where they need to go. Because that is the process of sexuality and lovemaking and sensuality and energy work. It's giving very Virgo. Everything has its place. Everything has its position, so to speak, in the grand order of things. But in that grand order of things, it's not static. It's not a grid. Well, it kind of is. It's a grid that moves. The matrix is important. The matrix is your body. The matrix is your fascia. The matrix is the container, the ground, the mother. But just the matrix is a problem. Just the freedom, white blank page, is a problem. In the middle, you take that grid and you warp it, and you move it, and you spin it, and it turns into a torus. And things move and they flow, but in perfect divine order. That's Virgo. And that's sexuality. And that's why Virgo is associated with purity, with the prefix perv, with divine order. That is the process of co-creation, of sexuality, of lovemaking. It's about moving energy in a way that helps to restore the natural divine order, the flow through that grid, to keep things flowing, to keep them regenerative, to keep the stagnation from happening, to allow the detox to happen. Things are shifting and changing. It's 5 million, billion, zillion different expressions of the same one energy. It's the same grid, it's the same order, it's the same everything in its place, but everything starts to shift. This place moves here and that place moves here. And we're all moving. It's a dance, it's a flow. That's the flow state. It's structure and chaos. That's very Sagittarius energy. Maybe a placement relevant for some of y'all. Or just, the general energy. Adventure, right? Be open to new experiences. Be open to releasing control. Be open to moving positions. Be open to switching positions with your co-creators. Allow the ebb and the flow. Offer your lovemaking to the divine, right? So now we have the middle world, the present position, the present energy for everybody that is resonating with this message today. That's generally the middle of the card where it's represented. Hello. Yes, sir. It is quite hard to control our energy and our thoughts when we have been stuck in hyperfixation or repression for so long. It's a messy process. Be patient with yourself. Be forgiving with yourself. And don't give up. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming. We were just talking about Pisces, right? Okay. Since ancient times, people have tried to build towers to reach the gods. The Ziggurat of Ur is a massive, steeped pyramid, once thought to be the earthly dwelling place of the moon god Nana, described as a wise man with a flowing beard and 4 horns. Call on Nana's wisdom now as you think about your sexual relationships. Do you put your partner on a pedestal? Sometimes you aren't always treated with respect. It is time for you to realize how amazing you are. Don't accept love from someone if that person does not embrace every part of you. How do you really feel about the relationship? Perhaps you have not been honest about your sexuality. Perhaps you have settled for second best, believing that any love is better than no love. Build your own tower on real foundations to reach up to the divinity of your complete self-expression. Making compromises, giving up, settling in sexual, romantic, familial relationships is literally dishonoring God. And the full and highest expression that you were put on this earth to embody for the benefit of the whole. It is selfish to settle. It is selfish to give up on yourself. It is selfish to give up on the world. And it is selfish to engage in sexuality that is not of purity, that is not of that perv essence, that is not of that Virgoan, everybody in their right position, switching positions at the perfect time to align with the flow of energy in the world around us that we need in order to express our full and highest expression as a team of co-creators with free will that cannot control each other and struggle to control ourselves. What an interesting place we live in here. Yeah. Build your own tower on real foundations to reach up to the divinity of your complete self-expression. That's giving Leo. There's a lion right here, right? We're in Leo season right now. We have the South Node in Leo, which is about releasing your beliefs, changing things, testing things out, trying new things, trying it a different way, looking at it from a different perspective, questioning how we've done things in the past, how you've done things in the past. Build your own tower on real foundations to reach up to the divinity of your complete self-expression in the Virgo essence. In the upper world, in the potential energy, moving forward for this collective here, if any or all of this message is resonating with you today. It says here, Ishtar offers you the sight of her owls, granting you access to her wisdom and revealing yours. The goddess asks you to hold on to her wings as you rise above the issues in your life and allow a shift to take place that moves you easily into a better situation. Remember that the spiritual world is real. It is this life that is the dream. In each hand, the goddess holds a knot of Ishtar, representing fertility and our ability to create new life and the very world we live in. Trust that soon you will receive all the support and guidance you need to make the necessary changes. It is important for you to be who you truly are, to have no shame, but to fully acknowledge your self-worth and your divine sexuality and stand proud. Ishtar, the shining star of Venus, will help you to remember that you are pleasure, that you are beauty, and that within your sexuality is the sacredness and sensuality of the divine. If you would like to join us for the invocation of Ishtar, feel free to find a nice cozy spot to do that in. A nice sacred intentional spot for you to do that in. And it says, use this invocation when you're in need of inspiration to start something new. Learn the words, then go out at night and say them to a starry sky with your eyes wide open and arms outstretched. I was going to hold this up while we did the reading for the invocation of Ishtar, as I usually do, for the action step at the end. But I'm definitely getting that it's good for you to memorize this image and hold it in your mind. I'll probably post a picture up on the community tab later too if you'd like. And then they say, learn the words and then go out at night to say them to a starry sky with your eyes wide open and arms outstretched. So remembering this image, invoking this image, remembering these words, invoking these words. It's interesting, we were talking about expression not led or controlled by any particular influence or rule system or expectation, but that we are speaking over a very structured invocation right here, given to us by an external source. But the thing is, it's the energy of Ishtar, which lives within you. It's a goddess that lives within the architecture of your own mind, body, and spirit. So it is, in a sense, a way of tapping in to that natural flow and that divine expression. A little help, a little leg up, a little kickstart. Kind of like when I started learning belly fit and I could not dance. I was too in my head. I couldn't do things without rules. So I started with a very structured dance, like cardio dance, moving meditation practice that allowed me 4-4-4-4 on the clock, that allowed me to have the structure to hold that energy. It's like your heart holding the blood that pumps through your veins. It helps to remind you of what direction you are intended to go into. So you're being encouraged to move more and more into an intuitive sense of this Virgoan architecture of the universe, and to figure out that alignment from a less structured place. But you might want to start with this first if you struggle to connect to that energy, if that makes sense. I call upon Ishtar, Queen of Might, Star of Wonder, Shining Light. Guide me to my beauty bright. Share your wisdom day and night. When Venus above shared her light to shine my way through the mystical night, upon a gateway I fell entranced and entered through the form of dance. And now I see and feel my worth. No longer is my life a curse. For the truth is plain to see. I am the embodiment of divinity. I thank you, Ishtar, Queen of Might, Star of Wonder, Shining Light. Guide me to my beauty bright. Share your wisdom day and night. I pulled a section from this book earlier. It said something about the baby, Jesse, telling a story about a memory that he had of having a willy growing out of his belly button that fell off, which was, you know, his umbilical cord. But he had no prior exposure to such a concept, which is why he misattributed the body part and everything. And in that section, they were talking about this is a real memory. There's really no other logical explanation if we're looking for logical explanations. This is a real memory. This umbilical cord, this connection to the goddess, to the rainbow serpent. This is a real memory. Spirit, is there a tarot card that may be relevant for this collective? 1 to 7 cards to clarify on this Ziggurat of Ur collective, this pimple patches collective, this mask collective. This rainbow serpents collective. We're trying to get into alignment. We're trying to get into a regenerative space. We're trying to get into something that works, because what we're doing right now isn't working, right? And we were talking about how we can and should and need to and will heal the world through this energy and this process, more so than anything on the 3D level, practically speaking, in a big communal context. It starts with the individuals, and when we have billions of individuals stepping into their positions, that's when things are going to come together and express in a communal sense, in a governmental sense, in a scientific and academic sense, in every group. Our group identities are not as strong as our individual identities that come from our souls. And sometimes there's like interplay going on there. Sometimes not, though. Sometimes people get pushed off their path and they have a lack of awareness about it. And then they all get together and they create this group identity, and this group, this egregore that is negatively impacting the world with dozens and hundreds and thousands of people who are all identifying in the same way, adding into it, feeding their energy into it, avoiding their dharma, unintentionally, consciously, perhaps. And these people become NPCs, they become robots, they become zombies. They become a part of this vampiric relationship with spirits and demons, right? So if we want to avoid giving power to these spirits and demons and allowing them to like take over all of the unconscious individuals on this planet, we have to make sure that we release them, neutralize them, process them. So this is the work. And I asked for a card from the tarot deck. We got Knight of Grains, Knight of Pentacles. Jacob works for Laban. I think these stories are kind of historically set in similar places, in a similar area. The whole like African, European, Asian confluence in the middle there. Did I use that word correctly? Interesting. Okay. I'm not going to go on a little side quest channel right now. Maybe we'll do a different video about that later if we need to. I'm seeing the lamb energy here. There's a short I posted up recently about the lamb energy. If you happen to see it, or if you really want to dig through and look for it, might be a confirmation for you. But the Genesis 29:20 verse that is associated with this card, this Knight of Pentacles, this like slow, steady, hardworking, step by step, making something happen, building something up. On this card, you know, it's a pentacle card, but traditionally, but it's related to love here, interestingly enough, and emotion. It says, so Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. This work to find our proper positions, to find our dharma, to find our place, to find that alignment, to find the place, the person that we're meant to be with, the position we're meant to be in, the place that we're supposed to interact with, the individual that we're supposed to switch positions with. So Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Move in love, do this work. It will be hard. It's some of the most confronting, challenging work that exists, which is why we have so many people stuck in unhealthy coping mechanisms of repression or hyperfixation. But all you can do is control you. All you can do is work with your body and your spirit and your mind. And it might be frustrating to see other people not taking responsibility for this work and this process when you know how vital it is and the position that we are in right now as a humanity. You gotta be able to stare down the barrel, have a little confident, smirky smile, and you know it might not work out. We could fall again. We could. So are you gonna repress it? 55-55 on the timer. Are we gonna change? Are we gonna move forward? Are we gonna embrace the resistance? Are we gonna do the hard things with faith that it's really the only thing we're here to do? And that even if we fail, it all comes together into the place that it's meant to in the end. Time is not linear, but there are fixed points in this story. I think we've been here before and we will be here again. Take comfort in that if you need to, if you do resonate. And if not, Delulu is the Salulu. Don't do more, don't burn yourself out. Don't take responsibility for the whole wide world and all the problems that everybody else is shucking, not addressing properly. Focus on what you can do and do this work, do this dance, do this lovemaking with the universe, with the people around you. Go through everything that we've talked about today and embrace that work. But don't push yourself. Don't fall into desperate energy. Remember, it says, so Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Time is not linear, and you know your destination, and you know it's worth the work, and you know that it will be achieved in time. How much time? Who knows? What can you do? Only what you can do. Should you do that? I think so. But close your eyes, turn in, listen. And if it resonates with you, I'm glad and I'm grateful and welcome to the fold. And please come back and hang out with us some more sometime. And Godspeed and good luck in your work, in your process. Thank you so much for doing that. And in a similar vein, I want to thank y'all for showing up. Thank you for co-creating community with us. Thank you for all of the engagement and the likes and the shares and the subscribes and the comments and all the engagement things. It really helps. It helps to get the word out. And what's the word? I think if you've been listening, you know that already. The word transcends whatever your native language tends to be. And you can remember, you can find that memory, you can find that umbilical cord to the divine, to the beginning, to the center of that torus, to that portion of that heartbeat. Remember, and move in faith. Do the work for the love of it. You'll never work a day in your life, right? Hello, New Zealand. Hello, Jeffrey Epstein Island. Hello, yes, sir. Hello, Boosted. Hi, everybody that's already hopped off. Hello, Yashasvi Mishra. Love, light, peace, and personal responsibility. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time.